Settle up, America. It's time for the concierge of conservatism, The Wayne Richards Show. Stand with Wayne and stand for liberty.
I was born by God's dear grace in an extraordinary place where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly.
And now, here's your host, Wayne Richards.
I'm sitting today with Alan West, who is a United States Army veteran who retired as a lieutenant colonel. And West served in several combat zones in Operation Desert Storm, in Operation Iraqi Freedom, and he was the battalion commander in the Army's 4th Infantry Division, and later also served in Afghanistan. As a first-time conservative congressman, Representative West understands the importance of our defense, military, and is also an advocate and strong supporter of a U.S.-Israeli alliance. The left is relentlessly attacking Congressman West because he's had the audacity to speak the truth and tell the voters that there are 76 communist, socialist, and socialist sympathizers presently serving in the United States Congress. Congressman West has identified the socialist agenda of the Congressional Progressive Caucus in the U.S. House, which is aligned with the Marxist-Leninist communist ideology. Congressman, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me, Wayne.
You know, unfortunately, running for office, which I had done in the past, I ran for Texas House of Representatives, and a difficult lesson that I learned was the importance of money. And, you know, I've been researching what your opponents are trying to do, and unfortunately your opponent comes from a very wealthy family, and his father created a PAC specifically for that. George Soros has put millions of dollars into this, and obviously it's a character assassination against you. You know, you've had the wherewithal and the backbone to fight against what's taking place in this country, as I mentioned earlier, against the communists. But at the same time, even though they've had all of these attacks against you on TV and media, you're ahead of the polls right now. What do you attest? Why do you think that that's the case right now?
Well, I think people all across South Florida and also the United States of America are looking for individuals that will stand on the truth and will not wilter under fire. When you look at all the forces that are aligned against me, that tells you something about what you have been able to accomplish as a freshman member of Congress, as a person that's never been in politics before in their life. You're telling people about our economic security, our energy security, and our national security, and you're contrasting these two very different philosophies of governance, if you want to call it that. You know, the liberal progressive socialism and that which we have in America is a constitutional Republican government. And people know that something's not right out there, but they just want to know, you know, what it is, and to be able to say, this is the vision that our founding fathers had for us. And this is a very, you know, it is antithetical to who we are, this vision that we currently see.
You know, I understand that you're actually, they redistricted you out, and you're in a more of a progressive liberal district at this point.
No, it's actually better.
It's,
you know, yeah, what they did in redistricting, they took it from what is called a D+1 district to about a D+6 district. And now I'm running in an R+1 district, which means you have a 1% racial advantage of Republicans over Democrats. So it's a perfect swing district, and a lot of people are shocked that, you know, right now our internal polls and independent polls have run, and we're between 11 to 12 points ahead, because once again, we're talking about solving the issues that are facing our area.
Let's talk foreign policy a little bit here. What are your thoughts on two key components, I think? Number one is Syria. I mean, it's a very difficult circumstance we're looking at. There's chemical weapons that are out there at large, and now we're just learning that a lot of the weapons that we sent to Syria, to the rebels to assist them, we're finding out actually going to radical Islamics.
Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda, exactly. So what are your thoughts on us providing weapons, and what do you think the United States should do as far as Syria is concerned?
Well, first of all, when you look at Syria, you have to go back a little bit. When General Austin, who was the commanding general on the ground in Iraq, asked for 10 to 15,000 of a residual force to remain in Iraq, basically what he was considering, how do you put a force out along the Iranian-Iraqi border? You put some forces out along that Iraqi-Syrian border, and maybe up in the north, you know, working with the Kurds. And the president came back and said, you know, I'm all about campaign promises, so we're not going to have any troops there. So you created a vacuum. And now what we have are Iranian forces that are transiting over the ground through Iraqi airspace to go into Syria. So you have a situation that you created because you did not leave any military presence, any credible force in that area, which is the only thing they understand, is strength and might. So now you look at Syria. On one side, you have Bashar al-Assad. You have the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. You have Russia. China is also supporting, and you have Hezbollah. Now on the other side, we have these freedom fighters who are radical Islamists that are aligning themselves with Al-Qaeda. And also you have Turkey, which under Prime Minister Erdogan is more so moving toward an Islamist Turkey and not a secular state, which is what Kemal Ataturk wanted. You have those chemical weapons that are moving. You have all of these considerations. But we don't have a credible military option. We don't have a credible force that can, have any impact on what is going on there. When you talk about this sequestration thing, what you're about to do to our military and decimating it, then again, that sends that weakness is provocative type of tone instead of a Reagan-esque peace through strength type of tone. So right now, there's not a lot of options of what we can do, and I don't agree with providing weapons to the rebel forces there, because they're going to end up in the hands of Al-Qaeda, which, when you think about what happened in Libya and look at where we have come because we went in and intervened, we did not look forward and think about who would fill in the vacuum in Libya. Think about all the shoulder-fired air defense missiles that are missing from Libya now. Where could they end up? In Syria, maybe in Gaza Strip. So we have a foreign policy coming from an administration that is done in sound bites. It is not very well thought through, and you see these serious ramifications.
We're told that President Obama was remiss in attending intelligence briefings during his entire 4 years.
Like 60%.
Which is really, it's a disaster. It's turning out to be a disaster for us. And what took place in Benghazi, they for days they came out saying it was a result of a video, and now we're finding out that that's not true.
Yeah, within 24 hours they knew.
Within 24 hours. Do you feel that there is a, I want to be politically correct here and not put you on the spot, but it would appear that there is an effort on the administration to cover up what actually took place. What do you think the U.S. Congress should do immediately to do the research and determine whether or not there is a cover-up, and if there was a request for assistance, security that was turned down or a blind eye turned towards that, what should the U.S. Congress do? What would you like to see done?
Well, we've already started that process in the Government Oversight Reform Committee with Chairman Darrell Issa, and I was with him just yesterday out in California in bringing these things to light. And, there is no doubt about the fact that there is a cover-up about this. I mean, the intelligence community provide the information, 24 hours is a terrorist attack. Yet 5 or 6 days later, you have the UN ambassador going on all the Sunday talk shows talking about a video. And first of all, the UN ambassador should not be out talking about embassies and consulates. That's a State Department responsibility. And even 2 weeks afterwards, you have the president that gets up and delivers a speech before the United Nations, where 6 times he's talking about a video. He doesn't say anything about a terrorist attack. So there is something going on. Now, the political problem is that this is a failure of foreign policy. Just days ahead of that, at the Democrat convention, the president stands up, Osama bin Laden is dead, Al-Qaeda has been decimated. That's not true. And your foreign policy is not based upon killing just one person. If that were the case in 1943, when we shot down Admiral Yamamoto out in the Pacific, World War II would have ended, and we would have had a great victory. So everything that they have hung their hats on is falling apart. So they cannot come out with the truth about this. So the Congress has to continue to investigate this, get the right information, but the American people have to demand to know the truth. And the American people have an important decision to make on 6 November. Are they going to allow this to just pass through the election and get on the other side? Because then it will be a non-issue, because you will just reward the president with another 4 years, then you're going to get more bad behavior. So the American people have an important responsibility in this, and I'm hoping at this town hall debate that's coming up Tuesday night that this question will come up from a very concerned American.
It is frustrating because, Sunday there was so much talk on all the Sunday talk shows, and yet today the New York Times has absolutely nothing about the issue in their paper. So it's obvious that the media, the old media especially, is complicit in trying to help Obama cover this particular issue.
They've always been complicit, Wayne. It's been incredible. But this is something that the American people won't tolerate. The American people, on the 11th anniversary of September 11th, saw our sovereign territory attacked. That's what an embassy is. That's what consulates are. You saw your flag ripped down and replaced with the black radical Islamist flag. You had an ambassador that was killed. That cannot be the new normal. We have not had an ambassador killed since, I believe, 1979 in Afghanistan under the Carter administration. So it's kind of funny how history seems to repeat itself. Carter had a little problem with the Iranian embassy, and now it seems that President Obama has a problem in the Middle East as well.
History seems to repeat itself whenever the United States lets their military degrade and we show weakness. Our enemies always try to take advantage of that.
It's a Machiavellian world.
Exactly. Let's switch a little bit more too, because you've been a spokesman and a warrior also on the issue about the Muslims here in the United States, and it's my opinion that there is a cultural jihad taking place both within the West and within the United States. Recently, I had an opportunity to sit down with Frank Gaffney, who is a terrorism expert and president for the Center of Security Policy and a former Secretary of Defense Department for the Reagan administration. He spoke to me directly about numerous agencies and individuals that have infiltrated the White House and the major departments and agencies within the United States that may be very, very concerned that our type of government is being affected by radical Islams.
Sure.
You speak to this issue. In fact, I know that you're targeted many times when you do your town halls by different groups trying to kill your credibility somewhat, and you're very knowledgeable and informative to this area. You hold yourself well. Are you concerned that the Muslims, radical Muslims, have indeed infiltrated the government of the United States and that they're having a negative impact on our overall policy?
Absolutely, Wayne. When you go back in 1991, the Muslim Brotherhood wrote what is called the Explanatory Memorandum, which laid out their blueprint for America and also for North America. And that was uncovered during an FBI raid at the basement of a home in Northern Virginia. And it talks about civilizational jihad. That's their purpose of what they call an Islamic settlement here in the United States of America. And when you look at the Muslim Brotherhood and all of the subsidiary groups that are operating here in the United States of America, Islamic Society of North America, the Muslim American Society, Muslim Political Action Committee, the Islamic Society of North America, Council for American Islamic Relations, all of these organizations are out there. You're starting to see them putting pressure on the Department of Defense with their terrorist training materials, putting pressure on the FBI. As a matter of fact, there's an Army colonel at the National Defense University that was taken off of the platform instructing because they deemed his material to be inflammatory and offensive to Muslims. But what is concerning is when you have a president that stood up at the United Nations in his most recent speech and said that the future does not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. That's not something that the President of the United States should be concerned about. And that follows along suit with this thing called United Nations Resolution 1618, which with the Organization for Islamic Countries, they're saying that if someone says something that they deem is offensive to Muslims or to Islam, that becomes an international crime. These are the things that are happening right here in our country that we need to pay attention to, and we need to have legislators at the federal level that are attuned to this and not become part of the political correctness which will cause us to lose our country.
And so much of Sharia law is basically law. I mean, a lot of people try to present it as though it's a religion, but it's a law, and it's a total affront to the U.S. Constitution.
Well, it's antithetical. It's antithetical to our U.S. Constitution because, we're established this republic based upon the liberties and freedoms of the individual. And that's not the case when you look at Sharia law. And really, that is something that should be reprehensible. Think about the young 14-year-old girl in Pakistan who was shot in the head by the Taliban guy that got on the bus, all because she was promoting education for young girls. That's not in concert with our principles and values, and that's not what we want to allow to creep in very slowly into our country.
To shift a little bit, just quickly to stay within the Middle East, but tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are regarding Iran. Do you expect Israel to take the offensive position if they determine that Iran is indeed very close to a nuclear weapon?
The issue is that Israel has, Prime Minister Netanyahu, that's a sovereign state, and they have a right to defend themselves. Now, the point is this: the day after. The 50 to 55,000 of medium and long-range rockets and missiles in southern Lebanon under control of Hezbollah. The rockets and missiles under control of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. A modern army that's under control of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. That's what they're going to have to contend with the day after. They'll stop fighting each other in Syria to focus against, the one little Satan. So they have to know that they have the United States of America that will be there to support them and have their back. They're not really sure about that right now, but understand that Iran has always been at war with us, since the late 70s. They took our personnel in the embassy hostage. They have been supporting terrorism through, Hezbollah and others. Hezbollah has inflicted the most casualties against us before Al-Qaeda. They're continuing to produce these explosive force penetrators and improvised explosive devices. And now we know that they have these cyber terrorist units that are taking advantage of us here in the United States of America. So we're already there. But once again, it's about peace through strength. It's about showing your strength and your might and not showing the weakness. And they're going to continue to march toward having that capability. And sooner or later, the world is going to have to confront it. And we don't need to lead from behind. We're going to have to take a leadership position.
Congressman West, what can my audience do to help you out these final weeks of the election?
Well, first of all, always pray. I think prayer is so important for this nation. And then they can go to AlanWestForCongress.com. And as a matter of fact, we have some hotel rooms reserved, and people want to come down that last week and stay down there with us in beautiful sunny South Florida along the Treasure Coast. Please do. And we're going to have a great party on the 6th of November. Well,
I do know that there are numerous people from Texas, North Texas, where I broadcast from, that are making plans to come down and canvass the Florida area. District 22, you're a congressman.
District 18 is the new one.
Is the new one. Oh, very good. And I know people motivated. We're working very hard to help you win election again, to maintain the strong conservative constitutional beliefs that you're bringing to Congress. So thank you very much for joining me, The Wayne Richards Show, and the best of luck.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing your job.